BCI fam? Welcome to another episode of the Members Only podcast. Per many members' requests, and I know this has been a topic me and Andy have talked about probably for months now that we really wanted to get into and dive deep on because we know it is a struggle with a lot of people. Sleep. I think everyone understands that sleep is very important, but how we kind of get ourselves prepared for sleep may not be the same as we do in other things in life. And if you've ever talked with Andy for probably more than 30 minutes, you've probably heard that he's dealt with a lot of sleep struggles over the course of his life. So at this point, Andy, I'm just going to pass it right over to you. We got a lot of stuff kind of written up and queued up for this. So I'm going to let you jump in where you see fit.
Yeah, this is a big one. And like Tate said, I have had every sleep issue that you can think of. And full transparency, there's still aspects of my sleep that I think are broken. And I think that comes from years of bad habits, and stories I told myself about, why I didn't need sleep. And culturally, there's been sayings in the entrepreneur space where it's like, sleep is the cousin of death, and it's like, whoa, that's a little aggressive, So just because you're laying down with your eyes closed, I'm not so sure they're closely related because sleep literally gives you life. And if you are not sleeping well, everything else is not optimized. It literally changes absolutely everything about how you look at food, how you digest food, your desire to exercise, your motivation, just absolutely everything. So we thought that it would be good for us to do a very thorough podcast on this. My goal is to share some basic information with you that just happens to be the truth and try to bend your arm to believe this because you, like me, probably have some stories about how you approach sleep and why you can't sleep well. And we need to confront those. Then we're going to go through the main areas that you can control to optimize a better night's sleep. So part of what I'm going to start off with is just a couple slides from this presentation I did a couple years ago for a big group of entrepreneurs that was called the Entrepreneur's Guide to Complete Transformation. Ditch the stress, get limitless energy, and become bulletproof. I think we would all like to ditch the stress, get limitless energy, and become bulletproof. And when you really start sleeping better, it gives you a great opportunity to do that. Most Americans are overstressed and under-recovered, and this has a lot to do with sleep in general and the way we approach it. We have a lot of resistance and ambivalence towards changing this. Like, we know that we should do it, but doing what's required to actually fix our sleep requires us to change certain things in our life. Very much like overhauling your nutrition, right? But this is a little more insidious because it's not something that we believe should take planning and effort. We should just be able to lay down at a certain time, close our eyes, and go to bed. And if we were still living outdoors and our circadian rhythms were tuned in to the rising and falling of the sun, that might be true. But as you all know, that's not how life is anymore. We are bombarded with artificial light. The environments that we live in are actually non-optimal for sleep for a lot of ways. And just life as a whole is a lot more stressful. And we carry that with us into the night. And we develop coping strategies to deal with it. Those coping strategies keep us from recovering and create this vicious cycle. So there's somebody listening to this right now that you believe, you'll say, I don't need a lot of sleep. I'm here to tell you that you do. It's just that you've gotten so used to not having a lot of sleep that you've created evidence that you can function pretty well. And you might be able to, but you don't know what's going on under the hood, how this is actually affecting your health as a whole, your cognitive performance, and everything. So if you're one of the people listening to this, I don't really need a lot of sleep. Yes, you do. You 100% do. There's a lot of people that tell me, man, I've never been a good sleeper. It's okay. Well, I get it, but that's not a solvable problem if that's the position you take. Mm-hmm. If it's, I've never been a good sleeper, but man, I recognize I really need to work on this. Okay, now that's a solvable problem. But advocating for the fact that you've never been a good sleeper is not going to help you come up with a solution, okay? And I want to give you this quote from Matthew Walker, who wrote a great book on sleep. The name of the book is escaping me right now, but I do have the quote right in front of me. And it's, sleep is the elixir of life, the Swiss Army knife of health, and is Mother Nature's best attempt yet at immortality. That's a pretty powerful quote.
Yeah, no, it hits.
Those that sleep well are almost different humans than people who don't. Like I said, I've dealt with a ton of sleep. Like Tate, on the other hand, he hasn't. He's developed the ability to sleep really well and get good quality sleep. Outside of his beautiful long hair, that might be the one other thing that I'm really jealous of when it comes to him, is that his ability to actually get good sleep. Because
and I think part of that kind of came to, like we kind of talked about before we kicked off the podcast, was until I was severely deficient in sleep. And through the military, for anyone that has served, you know that there are times where you got to go multiple days running off next to no sleep. So I learned when I have the opportunity, my only focus is getting as much quality sleep as possible. And then that kind of fed into, oh, now I have normal time, but I recognize the value of sleep a little bit differently by the time I got out, just because I was kind of forced to not be able to sleep as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
So that just helped me kind of prioritize sleep a little bit different. But.
Yeah. And many of you who train at the gym do have military experience. So that probably resonates with you. And if you fall down and go to sleep and you sleep through the night, that's fantastic. What I want you to ask yourself is, when you wake up in the morning, do you feel recovered? Do you feel energized? Because there's a difference between being unconscious and sleep. Or like, I can knock you over the head with a baseball bat and you won't move, but you're not going to wake up feeling the same as you would if you got 8 hours of sleep. So quality of sleep is really important. Because even if you sleep for a relatively good amount of time, if the quality wasn't good, you will still essentially be impaired. There's a study done by Williamson and Fire, and basically the outcome of this study was that a lack of sleep makes you drunk. So I want you to think about this. The study proved that less than 6 hours of sleep, so 18 hours of wake time, leaves you cognitively impaired at the same level as testing 0.1% legally drunk. So think about how many people leave out of the house every morning and jump in a vehicle after a poor night's sleep, okay? So there's a little bit of leverage there for you to work on this. You would never in your life advise anybody that you care about to drive drunk. Yet you may be walking out of the house every day relatively impaired in the same way because of not getting enough sleep. A couple other things to hammer before we get into strategies is that, like, a lack of sleep, it feeds your cravings. So if you aren't sleeping well and you say you have a sweet tooth, again, we've discussed this before, you definitely do not have a tooth in your mouth that is sweet, that craves sugar. Yeah. But if you don't sleep well, that feeds your desire for cravings and quick energy. So we reach for sugar that gives us quick energy, but that works against us later on, okay? A lack of sleep impairs your ability to recover from strenuous exercise. If you want to develop a resilient body and you want to train hard, you have to stress your body. You have to overstress your body to a degree. You have to create this state of overreaching by stressing yourself and then recovering from it. Well, if you're not sleeping well, you're not going through the reconciliation process required to actually recover. So it will really impact your ability to recover. Lack of sleep impacts your mood, energy, and sex drive as well. So just how you feel in general, your mood, your level of fulfillment, your desire to connect, all of those things are impaired because of poor sleep. There are actually 4 stages of sleep that I thought might be worth, filling you in on. Stage 1 is you're awake, okay? Stage 2 is light sleep. Stage 3 is deep sleep, or NREM. Stage 4 is REM sleep, or rapid eye movement. Each of these stages are really valuable, but specifically when it comes to NREM, this is the best health insurance policy you could ever wish for, okay? When you're in NREM, and this is stage 3, it serves a host of benefits for the brain and the body. It'll help strengthen and consolidate information. So this is what they call the file transfer effect, where you're going from short-term memory to long-term memory. So anything that you're studying and you're learning, if you're not sleeping well, you're also not going to retain that information because this file transfer effect doesn't happen well. I have some pretty wild memory issues that I thought were related a lot to head trauma, probably some trauma in general, just been through a lot of things in my life. But I do think a big part of it is sleep. And I think that's forced me to kind of overstudy and overlearn in some ways because things just don't stick as well. The deepest stages of NREM, your cardiovascular system cycles down. your blood pressure drops, your heart rate drops, and your immune system restocks. It starts to rebuild itself. So if you're somebody that's always sick or not feeling well, again, this could be equated back to poor sleep, okay? REM sleep is, so this is your stage 4. This is like where the brain waves are really kind of fast and frenetic, and they call it dream sleep, okay? This essentially, Walker uses the term overnight therapy. Brain waves are enhanced in the regions that control emotions and motor activity. That takes the edge off like really emotional things. Like think about this. If you ever, somebody said, hey, you need to go sleep on it. Or like if you've been in an argument with somebody, like the general advice is like, hey, sleep on it and talk tomorrow. Yeah. And that's because of this blunting effect of the emotional centers there. I shouldn't say blunting, basically more of how they repair themselves. Yeah. And time doesn't heal all wounds, right? It's time during sleep that helps you shore up your emotional resilience and your physical wounds. So that saying, while we all know it, like time heals all wounds, it's not just time. It's how you spend that time, and spending time focusing on good quality sleep is a great way to ensure that you're physically and emotionally sound. Okay, we'll give you a couple more tips, and then I'm going to go into what you should really be doing. So you should really focus on total sleep cycles per week. Now, this might be a little nerdy for people, but really what you want is about 28 to 35 sleep cycles a week. That breaks down to like 6 to 7.5 hours on average. So while I would love for all of you to be at like 7 to 8, maybe even some of you 8 to 9, that 6 is the floor. Okay, if you remember that study, that's the kind of the bottom floor of good quality sleep, is you need at least 6. One of the things that I've used a ton, a lot of people at the gym use it, is a Oura Ring. An Oura Ring is a great way to track the quality of your sleep, and the cool thing about that is it gives you insight into the stages of sleep and how they may or may not be working for you. Anything that you measure gives you the ability to change it, right? Because you're getting feedback every day, and you can match that up with your behavior. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't sleep as well from 11 to 2. What did I do before I went to bed that affected that? Was I up late? Did I get in an argument? Did I eat a lot of food? Did I have alcohol? And you can start then reverse engineering things from there, okay? Another pro tip, like major pro tip, is no stimulants after noon. If I see you walking around like Chris Vermillia drinking a Reign or a Bang or a Monster at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we might have to have a talking there. Yeah, you know, I've tried with him. He just don't listen to me. And but you need to cut stimulants by noon. I have abused that for many years. I think it was probably the start of my sleep issues, probably. But I stick to that now. Even if I am going to do more caffeine than usual, like I try to stay under 300 grams. But if I'm going to do more caffeine than usual, it's done before noon. It is a very rare day that I will have any caffeine after noon because of how it affects sleep. And the rest of these, I think I'm going to go through kind of by category. Okay, so there are a few things for you to consider when it comes to like really optimizing sleep. 1 is your environment. 2 is your light. 3 is your temperature. 4 is the need or inclusion of any devices. 5 is food, 6 is supplements, and then 7 is really taking all that and creating a routine out of it so your brain has something to anchor onto that says, okay, when I do A, B, C, and D, this is how I go to sleep. Okay, so if we start back with your environment needs to be dark. If you think about the way humans evolved, we used to sleep outside. When the sun went down, there were no street lights, there were no cell phone lights, there were no little lights on your fire detector. There was no light coming through your window from your neighbor's back porch. Like that just didn't exist. So our brains got very used to like when it was dark, this is when we go to sleep. So a couple tips there would be, number 1, get real blackout blinds. Real ones, okay? It costs you a little bit of money, but no light will get in your windows. Number 2, a sleep mask. I'm telling you, sleep mask is a game changer, especially if you're somebody that wakes up early, but not as early as when the sun comes up, right? So to make sure you get that last 30, 40 minutes of sleep before the sun comes up or as the sun's coming up, that sleep mask is a game changer because the minute that your eyes sense light, your brain thinks it's time to start preparing to be awake. So there are other considerations to take into place. You should not sleep with your TV on. I know a lot of people do this, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't look at your phone in the middle of the night. That is a really, really bad idea, and I'll give you some tips about that later on. But outside of the light disrupting you, there is other environmental concerns when it comes to your TV, for example. Your brain develops neuroassociations with environments. So if you walk into your bedroom and there are a multitude of things you do in there, you play games on your phone, you watch TV, you go to bed, you do some other stuff. Like your brain, when you walk in your room, is kind of confused. Like, oh, what are we about to do? You know? But if you don't have a TV or you turn that TV off, I'd recommend no TV in your bedroom, just to be clear. But at the very least, turning it off and not doing anything in your bedroom other than connection activities, for a lack of better words, and sleep, your brain will start to associate the room with those things. Yeah. You'll be less likely to be up watching TV all night and playing on your phone. Your brain will know when I walk in this room, it's time to go to sleep, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you to ask yourself, what does your brain associate with your room right now? Especially if you're a poor sleeper. What activities are you doing in your room when you're not sleeping well? And I would recommend that if your sleep is really that bad and you can't just thug it out and lay there with your eyes closed, get up, get out of your bedroom, and go into another room to do whatever activities you're doing when you're struggling to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my room, I have a TV in there. I think it's been on twice, and I've lived there 3 years.
Yep.
You walk in, it's my bed, it's blackout curtains, and I only go in my room really when it's time to sleep.
Yep.
And that's another thing that's just helped with me. When I walk in, put my stuff down, I lay in the bed, I go to sleep, I wake up, I get out of my bedroom, and then the day starts.
Yep. Listen, I wish I could say I was perfect with this. My bedroom is kind of a place of relaxation for me. I go to kind of hide a little bit and just relax and de-stress. And there are times that I'm in there on my phone and playing on my phone. So I don't want anybody to think like perfection is what's required, but intention does matter, right? So if you really struggle with sleep, specifically going to sleep, that is a big, big thing. My issues are not so much now about going to sleep. It's staying asleep, okay? And while light and environment affect that, some of the other things we're going to talk about actually affect it a little bit more. But that's kind of a good segue into light. Ideally, no blue light. So blue light is what comes from your phone, your iPad, and your TV. Now, obviously, the closer that you are to it, the more of an impact that's going to have. That's why TV would be better than phone. But again, this is something that I struggle with. So if you struggle with it, I totally get it. Some of the things that have worked for me are, one, wearing blue blocker glasses. I'm pretty inconsistent with that. But one of the things that has really helped me, and it also makes watching things on your TV or on your phone less enjoyable, is we have the ability to switch the color of our phone to red. So now you can't see this, but I'm going to show Tate just because he's sitting next to me. If I've got this set up on a shortcut right here, and so those of you that know how to do Apple shortcuts, you can do this. When I hit this 3 times, 1, 2, 3, it turns my entire phone red. Yeah. So now I'm looking at a red light instead of a blue light. I promise you, if you want to still distract yourself and watch things on your phone, it still works, okay? But you will start to realize how colors really impact your desire to watch something. Yeah. When it's just all red, it's like, I'm good. I can turn this off. So that's another really helpful tip. Maybe we can find a way to post a shortcut of how to do that. Mm-hmm. But the red works really good at night. And here's a little productivity tip. You can change it to gray during the day, and that makes you less likely to use your phone as well. Mm-hmm. So outside of the blue light, switching to red, generally when the sun goes down, start turning off lights in your house. You don't need all the lights on in your house. Yeah. That artificial light keeps us up. Mm-hmm. Start turning off lights, and if you have dimmers, really dim the lights. Get your brain prepared for okay, we know the sun is going down. It's time now to start preparing for some sleep. And really, this is one of the crazier things. I mentioned that, we used to go to sleep, outside in the dark, and we rose and went to sleep, and our circadian rhythms are based upon the sun. So what they have found is that a good night's sleep actually starts in the morning. And what they mean by that is that as soon as you get up and you have an opportunity to get your eyes on sun, you should. So within the first 30 minutes to an hour of waking up, you should find a way to get outside and look at the sun. Yes, driving in your car counts. So if you're somebody like, in my family, we kind of get up and get out the house pretty early. You don't need to go walk out on your back porch and stare at the sun for 10 minutes. Now, that's probably best, to be clear. Yeah, it's probably best. It'd be a great way to start your morning. But if you have a complicated life and that's challenging, I get it. But when you get in the car, you just have an opportunity to do that. So what's the one thing that could mess that up in the morning? Putting on sunglasses. So in the morning, when I take my daughter to school, 90% of the people on the roads are wearing sunglasses. It could be in the middle of the winter. Everybody's still wearing sunglasses. I think that's habitual because our eyes aren't used to the light. But that actually keeps us from preparing for a good night's sleep, because getting that first morning light is what sets our circadian rhythm to start producing cortisol. Cortisol and melatonin have an inverse relationship. So as cortisol is going up, melatonin is way down. And if you nail that spike in the morning, at night what happens is the opposite. Cortisol starts to go down and melatonin starts to go up, and that's what prepares us for sleep. So that's another pro tip, morning sunlight, okay? That takes us next to temperature, all right? So if any of your spouses get mad at you for this, I go ahead and apologize now, but the best sleep temperature has been proven to be about 66 to 68 degrees. We keep our house at 67. My wife gets mad at me when I pump it down one more to 66, so we've compromised and met in the middle at 67. The thing about keeping your house cold is you can always add more stuff to make you warm, more blankets and more clothes. It's really hard to get yourself colder. But there are a couple of things, because it is really important for you to enter that stage 3 where all that good reconciliation takes place. Our body temperature actually has to drop. So if you sleep hot, that is keeping you from getting good restful sleep. Even if keeping your house at 66 to 68 isn't enough, there are other things you can do. One really simple thing is take a shower. It could be a hot shower or it could be a cold shower. Either way, both of those serve as a way to lower your body temp. Cold is kind of obvious. It's going to lower your body temp. But when you get in a shower and you're in a hot shower and you get out, your body has to jumpstart all of its processes to cool you down. That is really beneficial for sleep as a whole. An overhead fan is another way to stay cool. Some of those mattresses, like Tempur-Pedic mattresses, they hold heat. So it'd be ideal to get a different mattress, or my favorite sleep hack is what's called a chili pad. Now this will cost you a little bit of money, and this is kind of a good segue into the devices that you might want to use. But the chili pad goes over your side of the bed, or it can go over the whole bed. You can buy a half or a whole. It's hooked up to this little like generator-like cooler that sits by the bed that you put water in, and it pumps water through the coils on this. So when I get in bed at night, my bed is set to 55 degrees. So that's pretty chilly. So I can pile blankets on top. I can choose to wear a shirt or not. But that is the best thing that I've done for keeping my body temperature down. In fact, we're going to the beach next week, and I will pack the chili pad with me. And if I could actually get it on an airplane, I would. It's that valuable to me as a sleep aid. So chili pad for the dub. The next thing is what's called a HAP-B sleep pad. H-A-P-B-E-E. HAP-B is this cool neuro device that you used to put on your head, and you could change brain waves associated with certain things. So for example, you could set the brainwave function to alcohol. And what you would do is get kind of the happy feelings that come with that, but with none of the negatives. You could set it to THC and CBD, and it would give you some of the relaxation feelings, but without some of the negatives associated with consuming those products. So it was a really cool product. But I don't see me wearing a device on my head all day just to optimize my feelings.
Yeah, I don't see it.
And I think they realized that too. So they created the HAP-B pillow. And basically it's this really thin pad, and they have different sleep routines in it to help align your brain frequencies in a way that are most optimal for sleep and relaxation. So I put that under my pillow, and it's an app that I operate off my phone. The third device, and the most important, there's somebody listening to this who owns a CPAP who doesn't use it. You got to stop not using it. Okay? I use a CPAP every night. Through all my issues with sleep, a couple years back, I went and got a sleep study. And I have mild sleep apnea. But what I learned, outside of the reason why I have it, I learned the dangers of having sleep apnea. And it can literally take years off of your life. Your heart rate is working harder than it needs to be because of you stopping breathing and gasping and then breathing again. This causes sleep disturbances, so you don't get good quality sleep either. So we're essentially choking all night. For me, it was like 25 times an hour, which is light. 25 times
an hour.
I would stop breathing.
Yeah.
And every time that happens, hold your breath for as long as you can until your brain realizes you need air, and then take in some air. And guess what happens? Heart rate's pounding. Yeah. And we're also depriving our brain of oxygen. That's not good for you. So when people say, I just can't sleep with it, it's like, well, guess what? You're not sleeping good without it.
Yeah.
But if you learn to sleep with it, at least you're not taking years off your life. So if it's uncomfortable, man, I get it. And if you want to talk about the different things I've used, like the one that I've found that is most comfortable, like reach out to me. I'm happy to share exactly what I use. But some of this is just understanding the ramifications of not using it. It's literally taking years off your life. And it will take a month, maybe, to get used to it. There are times that I'll wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning where I've got about another hour of sleep maybe, and I'll take it off. Okay, like I'll go use the bathroom, I'll lay back down, and I'll take it off. But that's about it. The rest of the time, man, if I get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, that thing goes right back on. Yeah. If I'm struggling, to sleep with it, I might pull it up over my nose and just breathe calmly for a while to get my heart rate down a little bit, and then put it back down on my nose. I recognize it's uncomfortable to have air forced down your nose sometimes, especially if your body's not relaxed. And those of you that struggle with a CPAP, I guarantee you it's worse on the nights that you drink alcohol or if you have caffeine after 12 p.m. because any increase in heart rate makes that rather uncomfortable. So this is me really trying to talk you into using your CPAP. There are a lot of people that have them and don't use them, but I don't think they understand how it's literally taking years off your life.
Now, what if, because I know you've had an Oura Ring for a long time and like started to assess your sleep. What have you noticed differently since like pre-CPAP compared to with CPAP, since you're pretty consistent with it on a daily basis?
The biggest thing was the amount of times I wake up. What I would see on that Oura Ring was like all those sleep disturbances. So if you've ever looked at pre-CPAP, you'd see all the white lines. It would look like somebody did like a white squiggly across my whole night of sleep.
Test.
Yeah. So it's like it would show that. Now I have these long blocks of blue by a white, right? And then a long block of blue in a white. So it shows me that I'm actually staying down. The other thing is that my respiration rate went down. So if I remember correctly, it was like 19 per minute. Now it's at like 16 per minute. So significant decrease in respiration, which is less stress on my entire system as a whole. Also, when I got the chili pad, my deep sleep numbers went up. Because again, getting cold or your body temperature getting to a certain level is the key for deep, relaxing sleep. Okay, so there's some other devices, like we mentioned the Oura Ring. There's some other stuff we could talk about, but I think that's sufficient. Now, there's 8 Sleep, and I think it's spelled like the number 8. They're another product very similar to the chili pad. I don't own one, but I know people that do, and they say they're fantastic as well. So the next thing is food, man. Okay, so there's 2 things to think about food: how well it digests and how close to you ate before bedtime. So generally in the evening time, a lot of people will work through their hunger and stress, and they're busy and they don't stop to eat. So they come home late at night, they eat a dinner that probably should have been good enough, but it's not. So they find themselves eating more food closer to bedtime. One, this isn't good because your body can't prioritize sleep if it's prioritizing digestion. That is a big thing right there. So if you eat close to bed, you're probably not going to sleep as well, and it'll take longer for you to go to bed. So part of that is digestion related. We recommend about 2 to 3 hours before bed having your last meal. That again is for digestion, but there's another component that really matters, and that has to do with your blood sugar. So if you eat really close to bed, okay, and within this 2-hour window, which you may or may not know, but blood sugar spikes about 2 hours after a meal. So what happens is if you eat right before bed, you lay down, you go to bed, as you're going to bed, your blood sugar starts to rise. At about that 2 to 3 hour mark, it's peaking, and then it starts to drop. And depending on what you ate, it can be a rapid drop or it could be a slow drop. But what happens when blood sugar drops, cortisol increases, especially when your brain knows you're asleep. We have to produce this cortisol to wake us up because a blood sugar crash is actually dangerous. So if you were to go into a blood sugar coma while you're asleep, that could be really bad, okay? So as your blood sugar is going down, your body starts to produce cortisol, and boom, that's when you pop up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever time it is, and you're like, man, why am I actually so damn awake right now? Mm-hmm. So a lot of that's one of the more common sleep issues is people waking up around 1 to 3 and just being like up, like, okay, now what do I do? And the most powerful thing I did was push my last meal back and make sure that it's foods that I digest really, really easy. So that's another tip right there. And also in regards to food, if you struggle to go to bed and you're dieting, for example, that's kind of normal because you're in a calorie deficit. That makes it a little bit, your body's a little more stressed out. It has less food than it normally does. But one of the things that I've found and that like a lot of bodybuilders will tell you is if you save that last meal and you include a significant amount of carbohydrates in there, that'll actually help you sleep better as opposed to just a protein and fat meal. Now, I will also add this caveat, and I know I'm in danger of confusing you. Some people actually respond differently. They have like a little bit of fat before bed, and that helps stabilize their blood sugar longer, and it gets them through a good night's sleep. So you can play around with those strategies, and if you're using a device to quantify it, you'll actually be able to have some real data and feedback on what's working. Yeah. And if that sounds like a pain in the butt to you and you have sleep issues, I get it, but what gets measured gets managed. Mm-hmm. And I have found when we take responsibility for something, when we start measuring it, it just forces behavior change because all of us struggle to live in our cognitive dissonance when we have data that confronts what we're doing. So
now, kind of on the food note, because I know a lot of the adults we train have kids that have very busy schedules, especially here during the summer. So, like when you started to talk about that, it kind of popped into my head. What about when we're at the ballpark from 6 till 9 o'clock, and we get home at 9:30, and I need to eat, and I need to get up in the morning to train. Now, I know there's not always a perfect situation. Life tends to throw curveballs at you, and a perfect routine is unsustainable.
Yep.
So what type of guidance would you give to some of those parents that may spend those long nights at the park, don't get home till late, how to navigate that with the food situation?
Now, that's a really good point. The first thing that comes to mind is you're not playing in the game. Mm-hmm. So as you're watching, you could eat. Mm-hmm. And you could rely on ballpark food. It wouldn't be terrible, for you to buy a cheeseburger and, bring some fruit with you or something. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And it would certainly set you up for a better night's sleep because you're eating further away from bedtime. If you didn't want to do ballpark food, there is a host of things that you could bring with you to put in a little cooler, from things like beef jerky and fruit to like actual meals. Now, if you don't want to be the weird one, for lack of better words, at the ballpark eating out of your cooler, I get that too. But I think if you match up feeling weird at the ballpark with poor sleep and the negatives associated with that, to me it's kind of a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. You could also, dare I say, have your last meal before you go to the ballpark.
Because that's kind of where my head went.
Yeah, it's like that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Some people might be coming right from work to the ballpark, so they might be better off like stopping by Publix, picking some significant, like some yogurt, some fruit, some beef jerky. Like, well, you're just making a meal out of that tonight.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be okay if you don't get to have your lasagna when you get home at 10. Like,
because this typically isn't an every night thing.
Correct.
But I know for some people it may be 2 or 3 nights in some weeks, and because I know that is an issue that I hear a lot of people talk about. So I figured that would be a good problem to throw out there.
And if you're focused on eating good, breakfast, lunch, maybe a snack in between, like you eating at the ballpark can finish your day off, or eating at the house before you go to the ball, that can finish the day off. You do not need to eat at 10 o'clock when you come home. And I'll say this too, like your kids don't either, to be honest. Little Johnny does not need, Wendy's at 10 o'clock just because he got done playing a game. It'd be pretty easy to make him a protein shake when he got home and send his butt to bed, because that would actually digest a whole lot easier than Wendy's. And eating at Wendy's is like eating at a fine dining restaurant these days as well, so it'll save you a little cash. But what I guess the point I want to make is, a lot of times we make decisions on food and how we're going to eat and what we're going to eat based on like social constructs. So what do people normally do at the ballpark? They eat ballpark food, right? And you can do that. It wouldn't be the worst thing if 2 nights out of the week your dinner was a cheeseburger and something else respectable there. But you don't have to do that just because what everybody else does. You do not. Yeah. You can bring your own food. You can eat before you go.
It's okay to be the weird one.
It is.
Especially
it's
if
okay
it's
to be different.
About your health. If we're talking about your health, especially with the way society is, it's okay to be the weird one. Because some people may look at themselves and be like, this person's bringing this cooler to the park. They're making their health a little bit more of a priority. And, I mean, that's just leading by example. And some people like to judge the things they don't understand or things they're not willing to do.
Dude, think about, and this is, different topic, but similar concept. Think about how many people now that are in businesses by the gym walk the parking lot.
I see people walking every day.
Almost every business in our center now has one person that walks that parking lot every day. Why do you think that is? Because they saw a bunch of tattooed weirdos walking there all day.
All day, every day.
So all of a sudden it starts to become acceptable in their mind to go for a walk when they're at work. And there's there's real power in being that person, like Tate said. Like somebody else might be inspired because of that. But I also know there's many of you listening to this that don't care about being some mom's inspiration at the ballpark.
Be an inspiration,
right?
people.
But, so it's like, I get it. But you need to take care of you first. Agreed. And you need to align your behaviors with what you want most. And managing that will help you get a good night's sleep. Yeah. So, all right, we could hammer food more, but we'll go into supplements. Okay, so supplements are really valuable, and there are a million of them that I could go through. So I'm going to try to keep this pretty basic to what I'm using right now, and that works really well for me. Number one, there is a supplement called Calm that you can buy at Walgreens, Publix, whatever. It basically is just magnesium. Now, they have another version of Calm that is for sleep, and it has GABA and theanine in it. I like that version a lot, okay? That version with the GABA and the theanine is really valuable. So if you are taking Calm, buy the one with the GABA and the theanine. Now, the next thing that I have found to be really, really valuable is 300 mcg time-released melatonin. One thing that I didn't mention about Calm is that sleep version also has melatonin in it. It only has about 2.5 milligrams, which is a good amount to help you go to sleep. The time-released 300 mcg, that is a lot smaller than a milligram, okay? That gets slowly released through the first 6 hours of your sleep. When I added that in, that got me through that 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., okay? Some nights I still get up at 3. But it really got me through the 9 p.m. to 3 p.m. wake-ups that I was having prior to that. So the combination of those two things has been really, really powerful. Now, on top of that, I do add extra theanine. Theanine helps tamp down cortisol. It's really good in the morning to also have with your first cup of coffee. It kind of extends the availability of the caffeine and blunts some of the effect of it, making you like less jittery and stuff like that. But it also helps really kind of knock down cortisol at night, which is really good for rest as a whole as well. So just to recap, we got calm sleep, 300 mcg, 6-hour time release melatonin, and we've got theanine. Those three right there are that you could probably do those three and be good. Another one that I add in is glycine. Glycine is really effective at help knocking down body temperature. So it kind of lends itself back to what we were talking about there. I take 3 grams of glycine as well. And then last but not least, I take a supplement called apigenin. Apigenin helps with GABA production, and I take 50 milligrams of that. That supplement combo right there, there's a host of data and research behind every ingredient that I mentioned, and it's been the most effective sleep supplement that I've ever used. I would stay away from like high dose melatonin. I would stick with kind of the lower doses like we talked about today. I will say one other thing that's been helpful for me in the evening time, if my body's just kind of tired but wired, is valerian root. Valerian root is really effective at just kind of like sedating you a bit. It really kind of knocks your body down and puts you in a good state of relaxation. So those would be the supplements I would recommend. The theanine, the glycine, we do sell at BCI. The other things you could get online pretty easy. And if you need brand or product names, certainly reach out and let us know, and we'll make sure that we get it to you. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, I want to talk about like your routine. You need a sleep routine. This should probably start with that meal, right? That last meal of the day, trying to cut that off about 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. And then in between that space, you should do some of the things that we talked about, right? You should take a shower, lay out your supplements, maybe start dimming the lights in the house, take that shower, if I didn't already say that. Mm-hmm. Grab a book and read a book, right? Or at very least, put on your TV and watch TV from far away instead of sitting on your phone. Hit the do not disturb button on your phone. Mm-hmm. Maybe buy you a brick like I did. If any of you listen to this, go look up the brick. And basically it's a device that you can use. You tap your cell phone on it and it blocks all of your social media and any other apps that you want. So I found that very effective. There's no scrolling at night because I just use this brick to basically enable those or disable those functions on the phone. But you want to start getting your brain and mind in a place of like, okay, I'm calming down. This would be a good time to do some breathing drills, right? And I when I say things like this, I know there's people listening like, yeah, whatever. Like, but there's such power in these routines, in these simple things. And if you're not doing them, if you're unwilling to try them, I want you to ask yourself, how committed are you to really having a better night's sleep? And then furthermore, how committed are you to really like optimizing your health? Because these little things, while I know they're different and might kind of be weird to you, but this is the key to optimizing health. Yeah,
It's kind of like our challenge. A lot of people tend to overlook the daily simple habits that help you get results. And it's easy to kind of brush off, water, who needs water? Or, I need to turn my phone off.
What's walking really going to do?
What is walking going to do?
Small hinges swing big doors, right? That's a saying for a reason. Small hinges swing big doors. And, the things that we talk about, guys, it's the hinges. And there are a lot of other things you can distract yourself with, but if you just focus on the things that we like talk about over and over and over again and really build them into your life in a practical and sustainable way, you'll be blown away at what happens to your health. And getting your sleep optimized is a major part of this. That's why, it's probably the longest podcast that we've shot so far. And it's because it's that important, guys. Like it's that important.
And I know one thing that's kind of helped me with my routine. I don't do it every single night, but I know a lot of people tend to get stressed over a lot of stuff they got going on. So there are some nights where when we got a lot of stuff going on, I'm going to set about a 5-10 minute timer and do that brain dump that we've talked about. Because when you lay in bed and my brain is thinking about the 500 things going on and I got all, like, no, like, set a timer, dump all my thoughts onto a sheet of paper. All right, that stuff's very important. I need to do that. When am I going to do that throughout the week or tomorrow or whatever the case may be? All this other stuff, oh, that's just useless brain clutter. I can just kind of ignore that to a degree.
It's such a powerful thing to do a brain dump at night, and you just write for 5 or 10 minutes and get everything out of your head that you're ruminating about or thinking about. And then you can also kind of carry that into like planning out your next day, because your brain knows, okay, I've already taken care of what I got to do tomorrow, so now I can relax and go to bed. And outside of that, one other really good strategy that's helpful in line with breathing is if you struggle to go to sleep, there's a certain breathing rhythm that they have found is helpful at helping you go to sleep and go to sleep fast. That's inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7 seconds, exhale for 8 seconds. And you keep running that pattern until you eventually forget and fall asleep. But that is a very, very effective pattern. And I'll just tell you this, if holding your breath for 7 seconds is challenging for you, you need more zone 2 aerobic cardio work, because that's a sign that your body is very stressed out if you can't hold your breath for 7 seconds without an increase in heart rate or a desire to breathe.
Yeah. And I know I lean on a lot of sleep meditation. Calm app has been huge for me, especially like after a brain dump.
Yep.
Put on like a self-guided sleep meditation to where I just have some soft music, a soft voice tell me inhale.
Yep.
Now exhale. And before I even know it, I'm asleep. And
I didn't even think about that. So like Calm is great. 2 other apps that I use, one is called Brain.fm, and that has a deep sleep function. You just tap it, plug it in, throw some headphones in your ears. I'd recommend the wired ones, not the Bluetooth type, but throw some headphones in, and it is amazing at how that helps. That is also something, if I do wake up at 2 to 3 and I'm struggling to go back to bed, that's what I reach for. I reach for that. I put in Brain.fm, I put in deep sleep, I throw it in my ears, I do that breathing pattern that I just talked about, and eventually I'll kind of fall back asleep. So that's really valuable. The other app that I've used for that is called NewCalm. NewCalm is a little bit more expensive. You have to buy these biosignature discs that you put on your wrist that helps go with the sleep waves. Kind of hard to explain in a medium like this, but NewCalm is very powerful as well, and it works really good for deep sleep and meditation too. So those are all, we just threw the kitchen sink at you here. Yeah. There's probably some other stuff that I'm not thinking about, but I feel like if you were to just dissect this episode and go through our environment, light, temperature, devices, food, supplements, okay, put that into a routine, man, things can change. And then what Tate brought up about the ballpark thing is a big one. And it's like what we talk about in our challenge is about implementation decisions. Writing out the major obstacles, long nights at the ballpark, late work nights, date nights, like whatever it is, writing that out and like, okay, how am I going to solve this problem? And making the decision ahead of time on how you're going to do it allows you to just show up and operate within your game plan. Instead of getting stuck at the ballpark, I'm starving, I don't know what to do, and the next thing you know, you're at Brugger's, pounding a M&M slushy thing that they have, and you don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So.
I dig it. Well, we went through a lot right there. I feel like that's probably a good place to kind of end it right there. So big thing with this, kind of like what Andy said, like go back and dissect this thing. This is about your health and your longevity with just life in general, which is very important. That's why we just talked for damn near an hour on that right there. So, and big thing is, if you have questions on any of this, don't hesitate to reach out. This is why we're doing these podcasts. We want to provide more value. So if we touched on a topic, you're like, ooh, I want to talk a little bit more about that. Hit us up. You see us every week. You got our phone numbers. We got our Facebook page. Please reach out. And if you want us to dissect this a little bit more and help you really take all this information and create a plan out of it, because it's going to help you in the long term, no doubt.
I'm going to close on this note because I just had this thought. If you're listening to this and you're drinking Benadryl at night to go to bed, take an Ambien, Xanax, something that's commonly prescribed to help people with sleep, man, please get on my books, because I want to help you come up with a better strategy to go to bed. Like I mentioned before, there's a difference between being unconscious and sleeping. And I know the difference. I've experienced it. And if you're in that hole where you're struggling with sleep, I know the way out. It just takes work.
Good things don't come easy.
That's right.
On that note, we'll catch you later. Out.
Out.